We were led to believe there would be no pacemaker in this field, such as the strength of the field with Komen, Gebrselassie and Paul Tergat, remember, who took the Olympic silver over 10,000 in that great battle with the Ethiopian in Atlanta. But indeed, for my money, Kano here has been elected by his compatriots as pacemaker. No doubt is being rewarded accordingly. 129 there in second place. John Kosgei also looks to me as though he's being set up for the next pacemaker. A little interesting that... little surprising that Worku Bikila in the green there in about sixth place isn't actually doing any pacemaking for Gebrselassie. Seems to be racing on his own right, Steve.
Well, if I was Gebrselassie, I probably wouldn't be wanting the pace to be set too fast. If he is still having problems with his blisters, then he probably doesn't want anyone to be going too close to his world record. The sort of shape that Komen's in, he obviously is capable of running very fast here. And Gebrselassie maybe is hoping that the pace isn't fast enough for the world record pace, that he just wants to win this one. But Komen obviously has other ideas, because the Kenyans certainly been set up. When Kano went to the front on that first lap, Kosgei, after about 350 metres, give him a little nudge in the back to say, come on son, you've got to go a little bit faster than that. Kano, of course, not used to these pacemaking duties, and it's an indication of how fast you've got to run at 5,000 these days. You've got to use a miler to run the first 3 or 4 laps. They're going to be running, well, not that far outside 4-minute miling, quite obviously, if they're going to get anywhere near the world record. But Kano here going through 1,000, look at that, 2:32. That's very, very fast indeed. And that certainly is world record pace, in fact faster than world record pace. So he's doing the job here. And just look how many people are still involved.
I know, it's quite staggering, isn't it? They're operating at almost 4-minute mile pace here. Bob Kennedy back in about 11th place at the moment. Remember, going under 13 minutes in Stockholm. That was an incredible run for him. The first white man, or first non-African under 13 minutes. There have been 3 races so far this year where 13 minutes has been broken. In Rome, in Paris, and in Stockholm, where, of course, Komen won with 12:51. That was the 3rd fastest time ever, after Hisu's 12:50 run in Rome, right at the beginning of the European season. And it does look here as though we're heading for another sub-13-minute time. That first split, 2:32 at 1K, way inside world record schedule. But as you say, Steve, nobody really dropping off the pack. I mean, the whole field must have gone through in under 2:35. It's quite astonishing, the pace they're laying down here. He's doing a pretty good job, though, after that initial nudge that you mentioned. Kano out in front, pushing it along at around 61 seconds per lap. That's just what's needed at this stage of the race. Gebrselassie, you mentioned his blisters. We understand he has 3 bad blisters and hasn't been able to train very much at all since the Olympic Games, but he's looking quite sprightly, for my money, in 3rd place there. Komen, though, surely the man in form at the moment. It's been a nice gap since that win over 3,000 in Monte Carlo on Saturday. A gap of 3 or 4 days, just about right for these men to recover and be up for the next race.
Well, they went through what would have been around about a mile in probably just under 4 minutes and 5. So that gives you an indication of what sort of pace they're running. Really is remarkable. Kano still doing a good job. There's Dieter Baumann in the red, just missing out again on the... I say again, just missing out on winning a medal again in the Olympics after a great run from him. Bob Kennedy in the red with the beard moving up on the outside. But it's still Kano in front from Kosgei. And they really mean business here. But isn't it interesting that Gebrselassie has decided that he's going to mix it in there with them. And nice hat, Johnny. That he's going to mix it in there with him. And maybe once he's got in the race, blisters or no blisters. I mean, the funny thing about blisters, you know this, Tim, is that once you're running, the pain kind of is just there, and you just keep working on it, and the pain of the race soon takes over from the blisters. It's usually only afterwards that you really feel it. And Kano's work's done there through 2K in 5:05. That really is remarkable. Another kilometre of 2:32.
Kosgei in the lead, then Gebrselassie in second, Komen in third. Now Paul Tergat comes into the frame, back in 4th place, beginning to make himself felt. Paul Koach in 5th place. Bob Kennedy beginning to get detached back there in 8th place. It's going to be a long, lonely second half for him. But the crowd fully aware of what's going on here. Such a knowledgeable audience in Zurich. The stadium has been sold out for months. Tickets like gold in Switzerland for this meeting. 23,000 people now clapping in rhythm for this African attack at Gebrselassie world record. And nice to see him right in there in the fight. But Komen in 3rd place, looking very comfortable at the moment. So is Tergat in 4th place. This pacemaking has been spot on 2:32, 2:32 through the first 2,000. The split at 3,000 for Gebrselassie last year was 7:42, and then he accelerated, can you believe? His last 5 kilometres taking just a shade over 5, his last 5 laps rather, taking just a shade over 5 minutes a year ago. Well, is Gebrselassie in that sort of shape here? Certainly the fitness of the Ethiopian would suggest that if he's had to rest or just jog very lightly for the last 10 days or so, then that would have been ideal preparation.
It's always difficult to tell. I mean, Gebrselassie, one of those men who often doesn't look tired. I think in Atlanta it was the first time he looked to me as though he was suffering in that race with Tergat. Tergat really did drag it out of him. And I remember Brendan Foster saying afterwards that when you really have to drag yourself up from that sort of depth of tiredness, that it is difficult to come back. And of course Komen wasn't in Atlanta, and he's been in such good form and been able to train through these last few weeks, which Gebrselassie hasn't been able to do. But Gebrselassie is such a talent, he's such a good racer, he's such a competitor that you really struggle to see where people can beat him if he is fit, because he's so fast on the last lap. And if Komen is going to do anything, then you get the feeling he's going to have to try and run away from him in the same way that Tergat did. But what a great race we got in prospect here, and look at it, still, Ricky just trying to get back on terms with that group there, but still, a bunch of Kenyans with Gebrselassie. It's building up to what could be a great finale here, whether Gebrselassie decides just to sit in and see what happens, or whether the Kenyans try to push it on.
7:41 at 3,000, that kilometre considerably slower than the previous two. 2:36 there, but still